Awesome. Cool. So as you guys know, the topic of today's paper was the effect of magnesium supplementation on muscle soreness and different type of physical activities, a systematic review by Tarsitano et al. From actually this year, so very recent. Melissa suggested this paper, so thank you. I'm always excited for suggestions. So when someone comes across something that interests them, please always do let me know. So just in terms of the background, a bit of an insight. Magnesium is a micronutrient, the fourth most abundant mineral in the body, and also an intracellular cation responsible for different biochemical reactions that are involved in energy production and storage, control of neuronal and vasomotor activity, as well as cardiac excitability and muscle contraction. So lots and lots of things that magnesium is helpful for. We also know that magnesium plays an important role in glucose metabolism through different mechanisms. So for examples, also glucose homeostasis, as well as regulating phosphorylation. And it has a fundamental role in many key enzymes, specifically both the stimulation and the activity of the calcium transport system in the membranes of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, that they depend on the presence of magnesium. So all that to say, magnesium is super important, involved in many, many things, specifically neuronal function, so for our nerve function, as well as muscle function, as many of us have probably experienced through cramps or other things in the past. Furthermore, also about 50% of the magnesium is actually stored in our bones and 50% inside our cells and organs. Only about 30 to 50% of magnesium uptake takes place in the distal small intestine and in the colon. The bone tissue is the largest magnesium storage system of the body, while the kidneys are responsible for magnesium excretion. Magnesium absorption also depends on the plasma level of vitamin D, which I thought was very interesting. I have to admit, I personally did not know that there was such a tight connection between magnesium and vitamin D. So yeah, just another good marker to pay attention to. And magnesium deficiency may result in impaired physical performance, as we know. Moreover, magnesium also plays an important role on delayed onset muscle soreness after training. The type, timing, and dosage of magnesium intake are not well elucidated yet. That's why this paper aimed to systematically review the literature regarding the effects of magnesium supplementation on muscle soreness in physically active individuals. I also have to admit, I personally thought that magnesium was one of the minerals most examined or most researched, or at least for me, it's always kind of been like one of the supplements most people recommend. So I just kind of figured that it was one of the things that had been researched most, but I guess not. It's not always a given. So in their methods in this paper, they actually only found 4 studies that were eligible to be included in the review. So overall, they had 73 participants, 60 men and only 13 female between the ages of 19 and 27 years. So that's kind of a weakness, I guess, of this review, given that most of them were very young and most of them were male. One study focused on the effects of magnesium supplementation on muscle soreness and performance, and one article focused on running performance, and 2 articles focused on the effects of magnesium supplementation in athletes that were involved in team sports. So we do have a bit of a broader overview, which I think is great. So in that first study, they supplemented with 350 milligrams of magnesium glycinate after resistance training, and they found that it reduced muscle soreness ratings. In the second study, they supplemented with 500 milligrams of magnesium oxidate, and they were on a low magnesium diet, or the researchers kind of assessed the diet to be low in magnesium. They found that it mitigated exercise-induced stress and also indicated benefits on blood glucose levels and soreness. So again, I think that's actually a great point for Gen Pop coaching, and that it also has a positive effect on blood glucose levels. And then in the third study, they had basketball players that were training twice a day, and for quite a long duration, and they received 400 milligrams. And they found that it might offer, they didn't specify what kind, unfortunately. They might offer protective effects by mitigating muscle damage. They said the serum magnesium levels changed the muscular damage markers. So things like creatinine, urea, creatinine kinase, and lactate dehydrogenase, as well as aspartate transaminase and alanine transaminase, and so on. In the fourth study, they had cyclists, and again, they didn't note which magnesium they were supplementing with, but they showed that the effect of oral magnesium supplementation on serum magnesium levels affected also erythrocyte magnesium levels, so specific markers, and hematological parameters and inflammation slash muscle damage markers. They all indicated that the recommended daily allowance of magnesium supplementation allowed muscle recovery from intense and strenuous exercise. So yes, in their discussion, they mentioned that they basically concluded that the concentration of plasma magnesium, the principal parameter to evaluate the nutritional status of this mineral, usually increases after short-lasting, high-intensity exercises and decreases after long-lasting exercises. I thought they repeated that a few times, and I have to say that it kind of confused me at first, and I think they sort of said like, hey, yeah, that it sounds controversial, but it's not really. So it increases in the short term, and then it decreases. So I guess chronically, I guess adaptation would be, or the short-term adaptation would mean that it increases at first, and then it decreases after long-lasting exercises as well, depending on what kind of activity we're doing here, really. Specifically, during exhausting exercise, a decreased magnesium level could inhibit calcium release from the sarcoplasmatic reticulum, so a cell component, which leads to muscle soreness. That meant, or they concluded, that long duration exercise may cause hypomagnesemia and hypoglycemia consequently, so both. Thus, exercise may increase magnesium demand and or magnesium depletion, leading to magnesium deficiency and to an increase in circulating markers of muscle damage. So I guess this is just the mechanism explained why athletes or people engaging in physical activity do need more magnesium, generally speaking, just because if we're looking at how does the muscle work, basically important components for that muscle pump to work, or that the muscle to have energy consistently, is magnesium and calcium, and over time they deplete, and therefore if we use that pump more often, logically we kind of need more of magnesium than if we don't use the muscle as much. They also said that athletes often do not follow a diet that contains adequate amounts of minerals, including magnesium. So that leads to marginal nutrient deficiencies and results in substandard training and reduced performance. Therefore, they recommend that individuals who regularly practice intense exercise should consider increasing their magnesium intake by 10 to 20% more compared to gender-matched sedentary peers. Therefore, during the sports season, magnesium supplementation is strongly recommended. For females, they also noted that during the follicular phase, a higher magnesium intake could be necessary. I found that quite interesting. I never considered that. I guess I always just generally for overall cycle health have recommended most people supplement or most women supplement with magnesium. I didn't consider that it might be particularly helpful during the follicular phase. I don't know how practicable it is to tell a client, hey, I think you should be increasing your magnesium intake even further during the follicular phase than during other phases or during the luteal phase, so to speak. I guess it could be something to consider if someone struggles with ovulation or doesn't ovulate regularly, or just generally if someone has irregular cycles, it could be worth telling them, hey, let's try a higher dose for like 2 weeks of the month and then a slightly lower dose during during the luteal phase. One thing that I didn't note down here, maybe it's on the next slide, I'm not entirely sure. One thing I didn't note down here that in the paper it actually said that they um, have their or would recommend the athletes cycle off of magnesium in an off season. I haven't heard that, but I mean, it kind of makes sense if you're not using your muscles as much in an off season, although like for us, for Gen Pop, I don't think that that's really relevant, nor really would make much sense, I guess, in my personal opinion. Um, Okay, so I just wanted to have a broad overview over the results in here again. So those are the 4 studies that they included. So the first one was the one with the strength training, where they supplemented with 350 milligrams of glycinate. And then the second one was the one, is that the?
I think it was the distance runners.
Yes, that's the distance runners, correct, thank you. And with the 500 milligrams of oxide, of magnesium oxide, then here we have the basketball players. It says, oh, here, I guess it says the type, the magnesium lactate, that's correct, but it didn't say the dosage. And then here, pure, I don't know what exactly that means, to be completely transparent, like what form would that be?
Lisa,
Yes?
the dose in the previous one is 400 milligrams. Is right, is to the right.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, here, sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And
Uh,
the pure just, I mean, you could use elemental magnesium, but I've never ever seen that in a supplement.
yeah, me
I
either.
mean,
So I,
pure, pure means it's not conjugated to anything. I don't know how that's is stable. Like I would have to Google it, but many elements are not stable like this. I mean, sodium as per se, you cannot just have it. Sodium chloride is harmless, but chloride is a gas and is actually toxic.
yeah,
So with magnesium could be the similar approach, and I should know it, but I don't.
that's fine. But no, thank you for that
I
note.
need magnesium chloride, so I should know it, but I don't remember anymore.
That's all good. Um, what surprised me too, though, was that most of these recommended or supplemented with magnesium in the morning, or like before their training. I guess here it says morning or night, right? But I personally was surprised by this, but then reading a bit more about it, it actually or I found that many people recommend taking magnesium like an hour or two before training, whereas I've always just recommended taking it at night to help with sleep and relaxation as well. So yeah, I guess that was just my thoughts on that point. But apart from that, here was just another graphic that I liked in the paper with like just visually seeing how important or with how many things magnesium is directly involved in. I'm sure that's a lot more, but thinking about the intestine in terms of digestion, and then we have just excretion and quote unquote detoxification, even adipose tissue. I didn't think about that at all, really. And when I think of bones, I mostly think of calcium. I really didn't necessarily think that it was such a big storage area for magnesium as well. So yeah, I found it quite interesting.
Just to add another layer, just in there in the previous one, this is what I was working with. No, the next one. Magnesium is absolutely essential for DNA replication. So if your DNA doesn't copy, you will not have proteins at all. Like there is no way to survive without magnesium. It's absolutely essential. So you wouldn't have muscle tissue or bone tissue or any tissue if you don't have magnesium, because the enzymes that are used to copy your DNA need magnesium as a cofactor.
Interesting. So does that mean if we're magnesium deficient, we don't heal in general as quickly? Like, I mean, obviously not just
Yeah,
recovery, but
you don't repair anything.
Mm.
Every enzyme or most of the enzymes in your body need magnesium as a cofactor. So basically your organism does not work if you don't have magnesium.
Super interesting. I think that that should mean that anyone who has surgery in the sense of any tissue repair, whether soft tissue or bone or whatever, they should be supplementing with magnesium.
You cannot use more than what you need, at least for the enzymes. I mean, they use what they need, and if there is not magnesium available, they will not work at all. Point. But if there is more going around, it's just there, but it's not used.
Okay, wow, cool. Interesting. Thank you. All right, so the authors essentially concluded that athletes often supplement with magnesium with different types of magnesium, including citrate, lactate, and oxide. Supposedly, magnesium citrate is the best type for muscle efficiency. I noted here, but maybe not ideal long term. I have heard from many people that work more in the gastrointestinal, digestive sort of thing that consistently supplementing with citrate is not a great idea, which was actually new to me also, but I've heard that several times. So they recommend much more bisglycinate or at least a blend of various types as opposed to just citrate, because then your gut just gets too used to it and you kind of you don't want that yeah, you want to keep your gut working on its own at its best as well. So that's at least how I understood it. The studies selected for this systematic review administered from 300 to 500 milligrams. Generally, the daily magnesium supplementation should be between 360 to 420 magnesium milligrams in adulthood, or 10 to 20% more for athletes, actually. In summary, according to the result of this systematic review, the following indications for magnesium supplementation intake to reduce muscle soreness can be provided once a day, 2 hours before training, and mainly during the follicular phase of the menstrual cycle in women. Maintaining a diet only magnesium intake during the off season. Oh, that's right, I did note it in there. Again, yeah, that surprised me that they recommended that. It is known that in humans, magnesium absorption starts approximately an hour after oral intake and reaches a plateau after 2 to 2.5 hours, up to 4 to 5 hours, and then declines. So I guess that's why they recommend taking it before training, or two to, what did they say, 2 to 3 hours before training. The selected studies did not follow the specific suggestion about the timing according to the physical activity. Moreover, they did not give information regarding how many hours before meals or physical activity the magnesium supplementation was taken. That's kind of what the researchers took from that. I did want to bring up a different or a web page here. Let me know if you guys will be able to see that also. Did that open up in Chrome for you? No, not yet. Okay. Let me see. Share. Yes. This. Oops, not that. Okay. Can you see the Chrome page now?
Yes.
Great. So here, because I mean, there are many more types of magnesium than just those that were mentioned just there. And I just wanted to go through some of those. Where are we? Okay, so magnesium glycinate, most of us are familiar with that. This is, if any of you are interested in this page, I can later send through the link for that as well. But yeah, we're familiar with magnesium glycinate, and it kind of goes through each one of those and which it's supposed to be most beneficial for. So another form which has become a little bit more popular is L-threonate, and supposedly this is also meant to help more with things like anxiety, depression, PTSD, but also supposed to help a bit more with sleep, apparently. And again, magnesium citrate, in my opinion, that's more often connected with digestion. So if we're a little bit constipated, taking a higher dose of magnesium citrate might be helpful. And then here we have the magnesium oxide, which I have often thought of as more of a cheap, not as easily absorbed form. But it says that it's just because it's cheap, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a poorer form. It can also help with constipation and indigestion, but also just generally be helpful for preventing migraines and nerve function and so on. So not necessarily a quote unquote bad form of magnesium either. Then there's another one which is not uncommon, which is magnesium malate. And that, from what I've heard, is also meant to help be one of the best forms to help with regeneration from training, but also a little bit of sleep. So malate and threonate are the two forms that I've become a bit more aware of. And then you also have magnesium taurate, that is I guess you can also find that. I've never tried taurate, to be honest. I have never heard of orotate before. Then of course we have magnesium sulfate and chloride, which are often more like you get magnesium creams, or even like if you take a bath, sometimes you can put some magnesium stuff in there as well. Like in an Epsom salt bath, there would be some magnesium in there also. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting to see some other forms of magnesium, and there is one which is quite popular. Some of you might even be taking that, which is a blend, the Bio Optimizer. I believe it's called Bio Optimizer Magnesium. It has like 7 different kinds, and I know some people that swear on it because it's just a yeah, get a little bit of everything, I guess. But again, I've never tried it because it never shipped to where I was at the time, and it's not a cheap blend, to be honest. But yeah, just wanted to share this one. I'll go back to the other screen in a moment. Where are we? Here. Nope. Here we go. Okay, are we back to the PowerPoint? Cool. Awesome. Okay, so I want to open this up to your guys' thoughts. First impressions, let's just start there. First thoughts, I guess.
I guess overall, I felt it was a nice paper. There was some nice takeaways, kind of similar to you, Lisa. Like I didn't know it had a relationship with vitamin D. I also didn't like a learning point for me was that I didn't realize its relationship with glucose metabolism as well. So that was like some nice little learning points for me. I was a little bit, there were kind of like points where I was like a little bit confused, and I don't know whether that was just my brain not functioning very well. Like I had to reread some of the sentences a couple of times just to see what they were trying to say. But like for example, I couldn't understand whether, like for example, the athlete population, whether they were recommending 10 to 20% above the recommended daily allowance, or whether it was like 10 to 20% above 300 to 500 milligram, not milligrams, 300 to 500 milligrams or whatever. So I wasn't sure, sometimes that I wasn't sure what they were trying to recommend. And then my final thought was that, um, of course, like it was only 4 studies, but then of those studies, they weren't really necessarily adhering to the recommended guidelines as such. It was like they're all doing their own different thing. So it didn't seem like, it wasn't, at times it was like, oh, these are the recommendations, but none of the studies have followed this. So yeah, so I was kind of, again, there were certain points where I was maybe a little bit confused with some of the things, but overall it was quite nice. Good learning point. Good learning points.
Yeah, I think it's in an Italian paper, or I don't know, just judging from the surname of the lead author. I think maybe Italian or so, so maybe there were some like translation barriers per se, but I similarly to you is like, yeah, I don't know what they're trying to say with this specifically. And what surprised me also was that they only were able to include 4 studies. I mean, they did have some good criteria to like sort out between, because they started off with like 1,000, or I don't know, even more. I don't remember off by heart. But yeah, I was like, well, okay, you ended up with 4 studies. Maybe we could have broadened the criteria just a little bit, or like I don't know. Um, but yeah, because overall, I mean, yes, you did have 73 athletes, but they were also not very long duration studies. Not that you necessarily need that, but in terms of like soreness, or it would have been interesting to see over a whole season for a sports team, for instance, or for an athlete, or like, yeah. So I agree with you. It could have been, as always, there would have been some possibilities to conduct it even better.
Mm, absolutely. I mean, one of the studies was only 10 days. It's like, oh, what can you get from supplementation from 10 days?
Precisely. Yeah.
I think the only thought that came to my head as well as you were speaking, Lisa, is they obviously recommended to take magnesium 2 hours before exercise, but for people who train in the morning, that's obviously not feasible or practical. It's like you can't take, yeah, it, if you're training at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, then to think like would they still prefer, or would it still make more sense to take it right before, even though it's only gonna get released or absorbed like 2 hours later?
You
Or
take it before, right? Just
pardon?
before you go to bed. The night before.
No, in those
I mean,
recommendations
if
they
you're
were
gonna, but if you happen to be a person that is gonna train early in the morning, I have 2 options. You either take it just before you go to bed, A, or if you are one of these humans that pee in the middle of the night, you
Mhm.
can put it next to your uh,
Your sink
in
or
your
something.
nightstand or something, and then when you wake up to pee, then you take it.
Yeah,
I
I,
I
I
need
I
to take
guess so that's
medication.
exactly the question. Like, would that be more beneficial than still taking it right before and not time? But my thought with that, like, I do think magnesium makes me a little bit sleepy, so I would rather take it at night. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but might depend on the type as well. But for me, I've always just associated with it with making me sleepy. Maybe it's placebo, possibly.
Now think about it. What kind of study would you need to design in order to answer your previous question? I mean, you will have to test people before going to bed at midnight, at 4 in the morning. Um, Difficult answer to give.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
would say for a person that is like a Gen Pop, what is the most convenient that we could do for you if you train at 5 in the morning?
Yeah.
Either you take it when you wake up, and well, better than nothing.
Yeah, very
I,
true.
I guess final comment, and I'll be quiet after that, is that it might also depend on the form. So, like you were showing us those different forms, Lisa, and if you're taking a magnesium form that's primarily formulated for anxiety or kind of, yeah, recovery, then maybe the evening is a good time. But if it's more for like performance and things like that, then maybe then it is wise to take that form before training.
Very true.
Couldn't it be also included in some pre-workouts? Like there is people that is not like Lisa and me who actually takes that. It might be that is already included in your pre-workout and then you already have it there.
Yeah, it could be. I've had a protein powder before where they included 200 milligrams of magnesium. I don't remember what form, but that was in the protein powder, which assuming most people take after training. But yeah, I don't know. Will be worth thinking about.
Mm.
Yeah, any other comments or thoughts coming to mind? Annie, you mentioned you had some notes. Was there anything that resonated with what we were speaking about?
There was. I found it really interesting that, all the studies were done on, I would assume, like high level athletes. So I think all the studies prove, magnesium supplementation is beneficial, but I would have a hard time saying, oh, well, these high level athletes, using that example to explain to, a general population person who, is just trying to build better habits. They're like, well, okay, that's good for them, but like what, yeah, the practicality of it kind of would be, at least in my mind, a little bit of a barrier.
Very good point. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I also think like it would have been nice to see not just like supplementation or no supplementation, but I mean they just kind of assume those 360 to 420 whatever milligrams, but it could have been good. Like, is there a difference between people supplementing with just 200 milligrams and then others that supplement with 500? And I mean, for us, here in this group, the most relevant of the 4 studies is the Reno et al. With regards to the bench press, I guess. So I mean, they supplemented with the glycinate, but yeah, here I definitely would have liked to see like a longer intervention as well as various levels in terms of dosage as well. And they only rated it in terms of perceived muscle soreness, which, is super vague. It would have been kind of nice to have more like in regards to performance related things in terms of maximum effort or something like that.
I would have liked to see more consistency in each group too, with not only the dosage like you mentioned, but also the type. It's that I think that might have been possibly shed some more insight.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Joyce, did you have any thoughts? Or sorry, Melissa, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that remember that this is a systematic review, so they did not do the experiment.
Yeah.
And if they would select studies where there was just one type, then it would be even less than 4.
Of course, probably but it would have still been nice.
Yeah, but if they would like, we need to search for this and this and this, and on top of that, we only want to see the ones that are longer than 3 months and magnesium glycinate. Okay, well, the results are 0.
That's true. Joyce, did you have any thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, I thought it was an interesting read, and then I was like Mike. I was interested to know that the vitamin D as well with the magnesium taking that stuff. But that was kind of interesting. But
yeah, for sure. I'm just remembering because you obviously with your digestive issues, are you at the moment taking magnesium? Because we spoke about, I think initially or like way back, you did take magnesium citrate even, right? And then we kind of got to the bottom of the fact that it accelerated your bowel movements, not in a good way.
No, I never have taken magnesium.
Oh, okay, never mind then. Yeah.
Yeah, I never did. I mean, we tried a bunch of different things. Magnesium was one of them that we didn't try, but no, I've never taken it.
Yeah, if anything, I would probably say not a citrate in your case for sure.
Yeah, I think what I'm doing is working really well, so I'm going to stick to that. So
perfect. Well, Joyce has had her gallbladder removed, so she had some digestive issues until we now found out that if she takes ox bile, is that right? Is that still the one that you're taking?
Yeah, that's correct.
That it really keeps her regular.
Yeah, that's been a game changer.
Yeah. Good. I'm curious, what forms of magnesium are you guys taking at the moment?
I take a blend.
Okay, yeah, cool. What do you know what forms of magnesium your blend does have?
I do think there's citrate and I believe glycinate.
Okay, yeah, cool.
I do not take magnesium supplement.
Okay, yep.
It might be that my multivitamin contains it, but I will have to check.
Very minimally. Yeah. Are you just trying to also like eat magnesium rich foods like spinach
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah. Nice.
I don't supplement with magnesium at the moment, but then after reading this paper, I was like, oh, maybe I should supplement with magnesium.
Well, maybe we can do an n equals 1, or you can do an n equals 1 and see if it makes a difference.
Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Get
Little case study.
hop on the
Okay,
magnesium.
let's document which form are you gonna take, which dose, and at what time.
Yeah, that's
Start a
Exactly.
notebook, because you're gonna have a lot of questions. These people is very strict here with the studies.
very
Well,
good.
I tell you now, Melissa, there is no way I'm getting up in the middle of the night to take that magnesium.
But do you
Ah.
work out in
No,
the
no,
morning?
but wait. One thing. I wake up anyway because I have to pee in the middle of the night. That is a standard. And I just, anyway, when I go to pee, I take my thyroid medication because I have to take it with no food. And I just put it there on the sink. So when I wash my hands, I take my pill. And that's routine. It's 4 years that I've been doing it. So it's not that I wake up to take the pill. I wake up to pee, and I wake up to pee every night. So I just use the opportunity.
But might you work out in the afternoon or in the morning as well?
In the morning.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a bit trickier. It's not our ideal study setup, but nonetheless, let us know
How
what form
long
you're
does it
taking.
take you to get to the gym?
Say that again.
How long does it take you to get from home to the gym?
10 minutes.
Oh, damn it.
Not-
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, there is probably like half an hour between me sort of, leaving and getting into my session, but it wouldn't be like a full 2 hours.
1 hour?
We
If
can
you
try.
wake up and take it?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we can take 1 hour.
Well, you could do the first 4 weeks taking the supplement beforehand, seeing if it makes a difference, and then the next 4 weeks taking it afterwards, seeing if it changes anything. And then another 4 weeks of a different kind beforehand, and then another 4 weeks of a different kind afterwards.
And that would be like 12 weeks, and we'd blow the other studies out of the water.
Exactly. That would be like, this is the perfect, you're gonna be like the gold
There is going to
standard
be a
for
case study,
magnesium
and I can write the
studies.
paper.
Exactly. We submit it
I
for
write the paper.
publication, and we'll be like king of the magnesium research field.
Exactly.
Well, it could probably be like a 1-year study if we wanted to cycle through all the different kinds.
Everyone's gonna know like the intricacies of my health at the end of it as well.
Are you currently in a still in a gaining phase, or are you at the stage of your, because you were gonna do a mini cut at some point, right? Or like a maintenance phase or something?
Yeah, so we've actually decided to keep going with the muscle gain phase at the moment, because things are kind of going well and things are looking okay. So yeah, we're just gonna keep extending it.
Awesome. Annie, Mike was on stage last, was it September, October, something like that?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he
it
now
was
dedicated like a year or 2 even to just putting on some muscle.
Good for you. That's awesome.
You said you don't have any competitions coming up anytime soon either, right? Annie, you're also just chipping away
Correct.
at the moment.
Yep. Depositing pennies and enjoying other things in life.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Especially throughout the summer, it's probably nice
Yes.
being social and doing other things. Yeah. Can imagine. Awesome. Cool. Well, any final thoughts on the paper or any other thoughts? No? Awesome. Well, again, like I said, if you guys come across any other studies throughout the week that you are considering for the future, let me know. Otherwise, I will be sending out next week's paper just momentarily as well. And yeah, Annie, it was nice to have you on board here today. So welcome.
Everyone, this was great.
Awesome. You guys have a nice rest of your evening or night. Bye. Bye. Or day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.